Operant conditioning is learning from our consequences. So we have what's introduced to us known as rewards as well as punishment. And so whenever you break it down, this can get kind of confusing to people because they'll say positive and think it inherently means good. They'll see negative, they think it inherently means bad. But that's not the case. Positive just means something's being added to the situation, and negative means something is being taken away from the situation. We'll talk about that more in the coming slides and make sure you're as squared away as we can in the time frame given. Now, operant conditioning is based on the law of effect, which states that we have the tendency to engage in behaviors that elicit a positive or enjoyable consequence, and less likely to engage in behaviors that elicit an unpleasant or neutral consequence. Okay? So whenever it comes to B.F. Skinner, one of the things that he did was he created what's known as the Skinner box. And the Skinner box simply displayed that whenever you put a rat in a chamber and you have a particular lever, whenever they pull the lever, there dispenses a reward. So obviously they are engaging in a behavior that's eliciting a pleasant consequence. So he adds on to this, referring to this, of course, as as positive reinforcement, but it goes a little bit more into just positive reinforcement. So again, I don't want you to get too lost in the weeds with it whenever it comes to this particular section, because I'm going to make this as simple as possible for my class, and make sure it's not as, I know it can be confusing on the initial end, but once you go through it a few times, you tend to get a decent grasp on it. So again, when it comes to reinforcement, we are simply trying to make the behavior more likely to occur. Okay? Positive means that we're adding something to the situation to, again, reinforcement, make a behavior more likely to occur. When it comes to negative reinforcement, write this down. Negative reinforcement is whenever we, again, negative equals removing something from the situation, reinforcement to make a behavior more likely to occur. Okay, so usually whenever it comes to negative reinforcement, it's the removal of an already present adverse stimulus or unpleasant stimulus to make a behavior more likely to occur. This is something to write down here. When you're navigating situational questions on a test, which we'll go through some here in a second, we go by the ABC model. Okay, you can go ahead and mark out the A for most things, but the A stands for antecedent. This is what happens prior to the behavior. Okay? Then the B, this stands for what is the target behavior. Now, whenever you're asking yourself, what is the target behavior, then ask yourself, are we trying to increase or decrease the likelihood of a behavior? This will tell us whether or not this situational question is reinforcement or punishment. Okay? So do not try to identify whether something's positive or negative until you've identified if something's reinforcement or punishment, because lastly is the consequence. And that's where we're going to identify if something's being added to the situation after the behavior or if something's being removed from the situation. And I'm going to make this make a little bit more sense and show you how both positive and negative reinforcement can co-occur in the same situation. So, this is my dog Bella. She is an Old English Bulldog. At the time of recording this, she's about 2 years old. And something that she's done to her family is she has negatively reinforced us. What do I mean by that? Well, Bella, whenever she wants pets, she will begin barking. Okay? And then she's trained her parents that whenever they hear the barking, they will automatically pet her. So this is something that we're trying to break. We don't consider this the most adequate behavior. But this is considered negative reinforcement. How do I come to that conclusion? Again, we write down the ABC model. We'll just go ahead and go to the behavior for now. So from Bella's perspective, and this is why perspective is important whenever you're going through operant conditioning. From Bella's perspective, her target behavior towards us is pets. Right? She wants us to pet her. Now, is Bella trying to increase or decrease this behavior? She's trying to increase that. So that tells me right off the bat that this is reinforcement for her. She's wanting to reinforce us in some way. Okay? What's happening before the behavior in the ABC model? Well, she's already barking, right? That's what's happening before the behavior. So the antecedent is the barking. So now we've identified the behavior, which is pets. What happens after we engage in the target behavior? We actually pet her. Bella stops barking. The removal of an already present adverse stimulus or unpleasant stimulus to make a behavior more likely to occur. So because Bella is in the consequence section removing something from the situation, that means we put it together and anything that we're removing is negative, so negative reinforcement, right? Now, from my perspective to Bella, guess what? I am positively reinforcing her. Well, how do I come to that conclusion? I thought it can just be one. Nope, it can be both simultaneously. It can be either or simultaneously. Okay, so write our ABC model down. When it comes to B, my target behavior toward Bella, apparently I'm telling her, and this can be an unconscious or unknown thing that I'm doing, which I obviously know it, but I'm saying for typical pet owners, the behavior that I'm telling her is my target behavior is her barking, right? So we're writing barking down under the behavior. Now, am I apparently trying to increase or decrease that? Apparently, I'm trying to increase it because I'm trying to tell her that when she wants pets, of course, I don't want her to, but my actions show that I want her to increase her barking whenever she wants pets. So that makes it reinforcement. Okay? Now, after Bella engages in the barking, what is the consequence for Bella? She gets pets. So am I adding pets or removing pets from the situation? That's the consequence. I'm adding pets, obviously, right? And so because I'm adding pets whenever she barks, that means it's positive. And unknowingly, I'm telling her that I want her to continue to bark in the future whenever she wants pets. So that is reinforcement, positive reinforcement. All right. Now, when it comes to positive punishment and negative punishment, same situation, just a little bit backwards. So positive punishment is you're adding something to the situation to make a behavior less likely to occur. Negative punishment, removing something to make a behavior less likely to occur. So when positive punishment comes into play, you're typically adding an unpleasant stimulus an unpleasant stimulus to make something less likely to occur. Negative punishment, you're removing something that is pleasant to make a behavior less likely to occur. So let's run through a few examples. So when a child cleans their room, you give them extra time to play their video games. Okay? So let's write our ABC model. What is the target behavior from the parents into the child? Because it's saying you give them extra time. So you are the person who the perspective is. So from you to the child, you are the target behavior is cleaning the room, right? So we write that under the B section. Are we trying to increase cleaning the room or decrease it? Obviously increase. So that tells me automatically that it's reinforcement. Okay, we go to our C section, the consequence. So what happens after the behavior? This is where we identify positive versus negative. So when they engage in the target behavior, you give them extra time to play their video games. So you're adding something to the situation, which means it's positive. So put it together, positive reinforcement. When you begin driving without a seatbelt, your car begins to beep. You then buckle up to remove the beeping. Therefore, you're more likely to buckle up to avoid the beeping in the future. Write out your ABC model. Okay. When it comes to the behavior, you got to look at it from the car manufacturer or the car's perspective because it's what's happening to you. You are the one being trained, right? So the target behavior is buckling up. Are they wanting to increase or decrease it? They want you to increase your seatbelt buckling. So we automatically know that that is going to be reinforcement. So what happens in the C section after behavior, after the C section, I need to quit saying that, in the consequence section is something is being removed. When you buckle up, when you engage in the target behavior, the beeping is removed. So because something's being removed from the situation, that means that it's negative reinforcement. All right. Mom and dad want to reduce the number of times their child misbehaves in public. Whenever Josh misbehaves, they administer a spanking when they get home. Okay, so mom and dad's perspective to Josh. All right, the target behavior is misbehaving. It's already telling you in this example here they're wanting to reduce it, so it doesn't really cause us too much friction of the mind here to figure this one out. So ABC model behavior is misbehaving. They're wanting to reduce that. Okay, so that means, or decrease the likelihood of it, so that tells me that it is automatically punishment. So after Josh does engage, though, in misbehaving, what happens when he engages in the target behavior? He is given a spanking when his family gets home. So something's being added to the situation after the behavior, the consequence. So that means that it is positive punishment. Mom and dad want Cindy to stop fighting with her brother, so each time she gets in an argument, they take away her favorite toy. Okay, so from mom and dad's perspective to Cindy, ABC model, start with the behavior. Behavior is the fighting. They want her to stop fighting with her brother, so they're wanting to reduce that behavior. So that tells me that it's punishment right out the gate. After she does actually engage in the target behavior of fighting with her brother, they take away something. They take away her favorite toy. So it's a removal of something, again, to make her behavior less likely to occur. So this is negative punishment. Okay? So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. I want you to try, if you're watching this video, especially for a class, I want you to try and navigate these four on your own. I'm going to pause for just a moment so you can work on this, and I'll give a delay so I'm not giving the answers right away. But whenever you return, you will hear me say what each bullet point is. I'm not going to go over every single one of them, obviously. I'm just going to give the answer for each so you can test how well you did. Okay, so when it comes to bullet 1, that's going to be positive reinforcement. Bullet 2 is negative reinforcement. Bullet 3 is positive punishment. Bullet 4 is negative punishment. How'd you do?